From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, this is a Headache Soul production. Welcome to Just the Tip-Sters, America's favorite true crime podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Morgan. With me today is my handsome and talented co-host, Joshua Coleslaw Bevan.
Coleslaw?
You're 90% cabbage.
Yeah, all right.
Am I wrong?
No.
That's what I thought. Okay,
you're not
good.
wrong. I went to, last week, for the first time, I went to Kohl's.
The store?
The French Dip in downtown LA. Okay, so there's...
I thought it was Philippe's.
Yeah. So two different spots claim to be the originators.
Okay, but I thought Philippe's was, but...
Well, I mean, Philippe's people think Philippe's is, and
okay.
Kohl's people think
How is Kohl's
is.
spelled?
COLE''S.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking Kohl's, the store where you buy clothes and shit.
Kohl's,
okay, Kohl's. I've never even heard of Kohl's, I'll be honest.
It's kind of, it's right there in the arts district or near the fashion district.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Anyway, for the first time I went there.
Okay.
Amazing French dip.
Okay.
I don't know who's first. I couldn't tell you who's best because, you'd have to have them on the same day to find who's best. But their coleslaw sucked. That was, I thought Kohl's, they've got to have good coleslaw.
One would think.
Yeah. It was, not sucked, but it was like,
soggy?
Grocery store coleslaw or whatever.
Okay.
Like, it was like deli counter.
Oh, I'm sorry.
French dips were amazing.
Oh, good. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
And was it 90% cabbage, just like you?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I would say you're more 90% the devil's lettuce.
Well, okay.
And you're not going to argue with that either.
Speaking of holidays coming around the corner.
420? Yeah. When is that? Tomorrow?
Yeah. Well.
Oh, holy crap. Tomorrow.
Not supposed to say that? When do we record? When do we actually air?
Are you going to be like laid out yet tomorrow? Just like high as fuck somewhere on the floor?
Yeah, no, my boys are home. I think.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Celebrate that hard.
Well, I am very excited about upcoming Cinco de Mayo because I found a tiny sombrero to put on Siren's head to make her hate me so bad.
Oh no.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but perhaps Joshua knows someone who's fostering some puppies.
I do.
Yeah.
No, we are. Yeah. Am I not allowed to say that?
I don't know. I didn't want to air your laundry, but
yeah, we got them this morning. They got delivered. Amazon delivery.
Ziggy and Marley.
Ziggy and Marley, which
brother and sister.
I think somebody also
celebrated 420.
Enjoys cabbage.
The devil's lettuce.
Yeah. Yeah, they're adorable, but they're little. Right now, we just got them this morning, so they're cowering in the corner, and they just
got to get used to you. If you would stop raising your hand to them,
that's probably it.
With your belt, you have a belt in your hand. You don't even wear a belt, but you found one.
Just
yeah.
You don't even have belt loops on those shorts.
You just wear a belt anyway, just in case you need to beat someone.
Yeah. No, they're two little black lab-ish kind of puppies.
Aww.
I don't know what that. Yeah, they got dropped off on some firehouse doorstep somewhere, and so we got a text. Oh, can you take them for 2 months? Okay, let's go. Let's do this.
They may not even be with you 2 months because they may just be snapped up.
Oh, they're adorable.
Yeah,
and depending on how good of pictures that we take.
Yeah.
So I think because my oldest is saying, well, let's just not take good pictures.
Oh my God, that's the cutest thing.
So we don't.
Oh my God.
So they don't have good pictures to post, and nobody will come.
Oh, Wesley, that's the sweetest thing. Let's take really blurry pictures. People think they're just like a Yeti. It's like in motion. That's hilarious and sweet.
Yeah.
Gosh darn it. Okay, so our episode this week is sponsored by Graveline Tours. That's graveline.rip. You can Google them and find them under all sorts of things because they are unique and original and one of a kind. And if you want to take any sort of a tour, if you're in the LA area that I'm going to call them like kind of murdery mystery tours, please consider putting Tipster 40 in the promo code area and you get 40% off. And Joshua and I can vouch for the tours as being such a fun experience, something, you just can't find anywhere else. It's so unique and enjoyable, and, you're going to remember it forever.
For sure.
Yeah. We have an upcoming sponsor, and I have to get more details, but it's Magic Mind. It's an elixir, and I've been taking the elixir shots for 7 days now.
Yeah.
And I've told Joshua, I'm like, look, I don't care if it's like me being crazy, but these things are very helpful. They're supposed to give you energy, but also calm you. It's 17 different ingredients, and it's in a, like maybe, I don't know if it's an ounce. I haven't really looked. It's a small little bottle, like a little shot. Yeah. And it's like green. So I, of course, was frightened. I'm like, this is going to taste like lawn trimmings.
Right.
No, it's got like matcha in it, which is typically not a favorite of mine, but it doesn't taste like matcha.
Okay.
It's got, they say it's got like a subtly sweet flavor. I don't know that I find it sweet. I told Joshua I found it sort of like grapefruit juice.
Oh, okay.
But I like it. And I like so few things.
Okay.
And I'm so tired and crabby and, stressed and all of those things. I do think this is really helping.
Cool. Good.
They say it can take, 7 to 10 days before you notice a difference. And I told Joshua, look, I don't care if it's psychosomatic. I feel better already.
Nice.
So
Good.
I'm looking forward to getting the things I'm actually supposed to say. This is just from my heart.
Oh, sure.
And there'll probably be like a promo code. But I didn't want to do anything and ask the listeners to participate in anything without trying it first.
Right. No,
so I really, really
good.
like it. And I wouldn't say I really, really like it if I didn't mean it. So
yeah, absolutely.
I imagine the longer I get to participate in this, I'll give you even more updates. But for now, I can tell you Magic Mind it's become part of my routine. And I'm happy to do it. I take it first thing in the morning, and then I go directly to my Mountain Dew kickstart. So, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Health from both sides, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Stop laughing at me, Joshua. It's a health drink.
I get it. It's a health drink.
It's a health drink.
It's a health drink.
I tried to convince people in my my criminal profiling class. It's like 6 to 9 or 9:30 p.m. I'm drinking fucking Mountain Dew Kickstart. Right. And they're like, what is that? And I'm like, it's my health drink. And they're like, really? So I drag the can over, the 16-ounce can over to their desk. And I'm like, look, it's got very few calories and it's got very low sugar. And look, it's got 5% of fruit juice and it's got caffeine and electrolytes. So it's basically a health drink. And they're just like looking at me wide-eyed, like, whatever you say, lady, please get away from me. Good. That's good for you. Get out. So, yeah. I think the combination of Magic Mind and Mountain Dew Kickstart, I mean, how can I go wrong? I'll basically take over the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm glad you're on board with that.
Yeah. I mean, take over the world, or at least take over your garage.
I did take over my garage. I cleaned out the fuck out of that thing. Yeah.
That's so good.
Thank
good
you.
work.
Thank you, Joshua. Because now I can put my car in my garage, which I had not been able to do for several years. I had, a couple of things. I was very teary-eyed, and it was, an emotional roller coaster throwing stuff away, even though things that were not even related to Mark. I still saved quite a few things. But underneath all of the hoarder piles of sheets and towels and shit that I had stacked up in the garage, I found a pair of his shoes, and they were too kind of beat up to donate, because I did donate a lot of his stuff. But I was like, oh, Mark. And I ended up, throwing them away, and I felt a little guilty, like I'm throwing away, part of my husband, but I know that's not it. It was just, I can't hold on to everything forever. Sure. And I am getting better. I know Joshua can tell you I'm getting better because things are, getting pared down, but I still have so much stuff to go through. And it's, it can be difficult, even stuff that you're not attached to or that doesn't mean anything to you. It's because it was his.
Yeah. I bet.
I have a hard time throwing away anything with his handwriting on it.
Sure.
Yeah. And it's just like a couple of notes he made for work a few days before he died about a general contractor and about some legal stuff. And it's his specific handwriting. And it just was like, oh, wow. Yeah. And it's on a little pad that says, from the desk of Mark Humphreys. And it's just this crazy little note, but it's, in blue, like marker. And it just made me happy. I say, but it's still in my desk. So yeah. Beautiful. Anyway, right. So speaking of class, this case was studied in our criminal profiling class, and I hate it. And I got into a big bad fight with most everyone else.
You hate it, but we're about to do it anyway?
Sure are.
Okay. All right.
Because it's twofold for me. Lots of people have covered it. It is a complete and utter mystery. No one really knows what has happened yet. And I know that the tipsters are brilliant and they will have their own ideas. But Mark and I saw this years ago on Unsolved Mysteries. And I will tell you, as interesting as Unsolved Mysteries is, it is not a journalistic endeavor. It is a television show for entertainment. Yeah. And they have producers that have an agenda. And I am ridiculous. And it took me a very long time to believe that, because Mark used to say, I would make him watch, true crime documentaries. I'm like, isn't that fascinating? He goes, yeah, well, it's got an agenda. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, no, okay. He's the person who was more, even keeled. I just am like, I believe everything I hear. But it dawns on me, if you're going to interview only the family and not law enforcement, it's probably going to be geared toward the family, skewed in the family's perception. And the thing is, when someone dies mysteriously without a lot of information or clues, no one ever wants to believe their family member killed themselves. They just don't.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we don't always know what goes on in the heart and mind of someone in our life, even if we love them.
Right.
It's so heartbreaking. I can't even imagine the pain of this. I have my own pain, with Mark, but he did not kill himself. I mean, you could say he killed himself by, not taking good care of himself, but that's different. He thought he had a lot more time, and I sure did too.
Sure.
To, have something unexplainable happen and have a lot of weird factors in your life, it's just hard for me to come to any other conclusion. So I love a mystery. I'm also not really big in conspiracy theories. And this case is shit. It's just shit. I feel terrible for the family. I feel terrible for JoAnn Matouk, but it's shit. You can blame 1,000 things and nothing at all. You can blame terrible police work. You can blame a botched investigation. You can blame things in her life that made it look like it went one way. You can blame people coming forward who are so full of shit and giving statements that are, could you just try any harder to be a shit stirrer? It's a shit case. Sorry. So I'll just tell you what happened. We had a discussion in class, and the professor says, who thinks it's suicide? And I'm the only one to raise my hand.
Oh, wow.
And everyone else just turns around and fucking comes at me. And I was like, trying. I know, and I'm not trying to make this sound snottier than it already does. I know more about this case than was revealed on Unsolved Mysteries.
Okay.
So, I know more about this case, other details that they don't have. So the instructor was like, going on what you see here. And I go, going on what I see here would be like difficult to say, but knowing what I know, I believe she committed suicide. And they're like, well, what about this? And what about this? And it was like a free-for-all attacking Melissa.
Wow.
And the instructor
she let it go?
Yeah. But she was not doing something on purpose to hurt me. She was like, defend your opinion.
Oh, she's okay.
It
was an exercise.
Damn. And how to attack Melissa. No, I'm kidding. So it was like, let's pick her out. And she won the lottery today. We're gonna punch her in the nads. So I left like shell shocked, and I was like, oh. So when I went in on Thursday, it was there are two, like she splits a room in half, so there's two groups, and the first group had done the JoAnn Matouk case, and we were going to do another one. So she goes, "Are you ready?" I was the only one there in the room at the time. I got there early, and she goes, "Are you ready for your group to?" And I go, "Yeah, you know what? I'm keeping my fucking mouth shut tonight, though."
I ain't raising my hand.
I did, and she goes, "What?" And I go, "I'm not going through that again." She goes, "Oh no!"
Oh, so she didn't even see the.
She thought it was a good discussion. So she actually came over and gave me a hug.
Oh,
and I was like, it's too late now. But no, I didn't. And she's in beginning class, she said, Melissa got her feelings hurt. And I was like, thanks.
Oh, she called you out harder?
Mm-hmm.
What the? Oh my God.
And everyone turns around and is smiling real big. But she said to me, sometimes you know a lot more about these cases than a lot of people because of what you do.
Sure.
And sometimes I don't want them to think that I'm picking favorites. And I was like, all right, whatever. So anyway, I kept my mouth sort of shut because I hated the case that we did too. Also, probably
the next case, the next day,
probably also a suicide. And it's, and I knew more about that case too.
Oh, you did?
I knew about financial problems that the young man was having and that other things that paranoia, schizophrenia issues. So anyway.
But you didn't raise your hand the second time?
Not much.
Okay.
I just, there's enough people in the group and we all kind of take turns presenting. So I was like, you're on your own this time, fuckers. I'm not telling you shit. I'm just going to sit here with my hands folded over my lap.
Oh.
It's okay. Oh. It's all right. There'll be other opportunities. I just,
man.
I want to believe like everyone else believes that nobody is in so much pain that they take their own lives, but it happens every day.
Yeah.
At people that you expect and people you don't expect.
We as humans have this, we have this empathy and it's really hard to get into the mindset of someone who wants to take their own life because that goes against every bit of programming. We want to stay alive.
Right, to save ourselves.
At the same time, it also is really hard to get into the mind of somebody who wants to take somebody else's life.
Right.
So the people who can have huge abilities to, get into let go of your own stuff and get into their head and be able to actually, and I think detectives and everything have abilities that a lot of us couldn't imagine.
Well, they've seen a lot over the years. And granted, not every case is going to, line up to another case. But if there are similarities, what you have to do is go on the evidence. You can have all of the theories that you want, but it's not what you think, it's what you know. Right. And it's what you can prove.
Right.
And you'll see this case is just all over the goddamn place. So Unsolved Mysteries covered it. This is from January of 2012. And it is a fucking weird one. JoAnn Matouk was in the middle of a divorce. JoAnn Matouk Romain, probably married, I think it's like 25 years to her husband, David. And he had left her for her best friend that he later married.
Oh.
Right.
Yikes.
And she comes from a well-to-do family who owned a very popular fine wine liquor store in a very upscale area of Michigan, Grosse Pointe Farms. So there's Grosse Pointe Woods, Grosse Pointe Farms, and probably the only thing people know about it is John Cusack's Grosse Pointe Blank.
That was
yeah.
I was. That's exactly what I was just going to reference.
I don't know a lot about Michigan, but it is a beautiful, kind of well-to-do area. And she'd grown up there and lived there her whole life. And it's obviously a lot of places want to portray themselves as, crime-free and things like this don't happen here. But I also think that digging around and trying to make something such a big conspiracy doesn't make anything any better.
Okay.
And JoAnn, while a extremely devout Catholic, which you can say, oh, she would never take her own life. Catholics know that that's a sin. She sought out, she sought out, prayer services. She went multiple times a day sometimes. Where she was the night that she went missing was a 10-minute prayer service at a church directly across from Lake Clare, which is incredibly huge and large and beautiful. It looks more like an ocean. The way, Lake Michigan, I was shocked when I went to Chicago the first time and saw Lake Michigan. I'm like, this goes on forever. That's not a lake.
It's a full-on ocean.
That's an ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, that's incredible. It's also so cold that there may be hundreds or thousands of bodies in Lake Michigan because of the temperature. They don't rise. Bodies don't build up gases and rise to the top in the.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so cold.
Okay.
And it's so deep that it's, levels that it's not a lake. It's so different than a lake to me. So Lake Clare is quite beautiful also in that same kind of realm. So this beautiful old venerable church is across the street from Lake Clare. So here are some of the details that may or may not be important. And so JoAnn is in the middle of this, divorce with her husband of multiple decades who is having an affair with her best friend. JoAnn had a part-time job at a little boutique in the middle of town, and it was kind of a high-end thing. And she, I think, just to keep busy. And she was very social, went to lunch with all of her friends, extremely involved in her church, just, a lot of praying, a lot. So She has these 2 daughters and a son. She moves in with her daughters after she leaves, or after her husband leaves her. And I think she's just kind of trying to get her life together. And she, around December of 2009, she starts to come home from her part-time job and tell her daughters, somebody's following me.
Oh.
Somebody's following me. And her daughter, Kelly, says, who? And she said, I don't know. It's a different person every day.
Oh, boy.
Right. And her daughters, Kelly, Michelle, and her son, Michael, believe her. And they should. She's their mom. And they love her. And they call her everybody's mom. I would believe someone I love too. But I would probably need more information or more evidence.
Yeah.
So it's a different person, a different car every day, but she knows she's being followed.
Okay.
Right. So this family business, and there's quite a bit of family business going on. And I don't want to hit all of the high points because it will just confuse you. But I just want you to understand, a 55-year-old woman whose husband of several decades left her. She is, living with her daughters. She is working part-time, and she has a contentious relationship with most family members. It's, families are dysfunctional no matter who they are.
With wider family members.
Yes.
She's good with her daughters
yes.
and son. Okay.
Yes. Cousins.
Got it.
Brother. So they, the family business is called like Woods Fine Wines and Liquors or something. And it's a lovely liquor store, upscale liquor store. The problem apparently began when her and her brother John's mother died and left a large inheritance.
Okay.
Her brother John, they sort of portray him, and nothing against Unsolved Mysteries, but again, this is not a true journalistic endeavor. This is a television show for entertainment. Sure. Portray John as the black sheep of the family, ne'er-do-well.
Oh, okay.
He has been up and down the financial scale, financier listed in, some local magazine like, 40 under 40 who are movers and shakers, sure. And then lost a great deal of money. And JoAnn would sort of bankroll him to get back up on his feet. I don't think it was as bad as people are saying. I don't think he's as much of a black sheep as people are saying. And he and his sister JoAnn were extremely close. They were probably closer than most other people in the family.
Okay.
I'm just going to say this, in those kind of magazines like, 40 under 40, 30 under 30, you can get someone to put you in those.
Sure.
It's a vanity piece. It's not a meritocracy,
I've been nominated for this before.
There you go.
I get it.
Yeah. It's usually a small town publication who looks at people who've done things or, and call them movers and shakers. And they're like, I wonder how I'm going to pay my rent next month. Sure. It's, I'm not saying it wasn't a nice honor, but I also think, it's not a true reflection of someone's life. So I think he was probably somewhere in the middle. I think he'd made a lot of money and I think he'd lost a lot of money. Yeah. I think that's just kind of the reality. So JoAnn would fund a lot of money to him. A lot of people think that he had her ear and filled it with unfortunate, conspiracy things. They have a cousin, Tim Matouk. Now, Tim is a police officer.
Okay.
And well-respected, and heard from another cousin involved in the family liquor store that JoAnn was saying her brother John's financial issues are all because of Tim.
John's financial issues are because of Tim.
Because Tim is in law enforcement, and they felt like that he was turning in information so that the SEC would investigate.
Oh, no. Okay.
And he wasn't.
Okay.
Because that's not even in his purview. He's a fucking local cop.
Got it.
But JoAnn, whether she heard it from her brother John or whether it was her own, opinion, she had told other family members all of Johnny's problems are because of Tim.
But wait a second. If Johnny's doing shady-ish things...
Maybe or maybe not, I don't know.
I don't know that you... Yeah, okay.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I am trying...
It sounds like family drama.
Thank you. I'm trying to explain this without my agenda.
Yeah.
Because my agenda is she either knowingly ended her life or she sat down on this, break wall close to Lake Clare and slipped in.
Oh.
It's January. It's snowy. She's wearing 4-inch boots. She's 4'10" and weighs 250 pounds. She is, there's one set of footprints down to the lake.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So I'm just letting you know my agenda right now.
Okay.
But I'm trying to give you all of the background so that you can make your own decision.
Okay.
And I would hope that, Tip-Sters would look into this themselves, because I'll tell you, I'm not going to name her name because I love her and appreciate her, but she's one of the smartest people I know. And I sent her the information on this case and I go, I got fucking railed in class and I think it's suicide. And she thoroughly looked at it and sent me back something and said, well, fuck yes. Like, why would anyone think? And I was like, okay, because it's literally that black and white. Okay. People are like, how could anyone think this is suicide? And then it's like, well, yeah, of course it's suicide. So,
okay. But if you leave out details and try to slant it towards something else, I mean, I think we could have done that with any,
absolutely,
any case
absolutely
that we've covered. Yeah.
Right.
Like, yeah, I can make it sound like something else.
Absolutely. And I'm not slamming, unsolved mysteries. I'm just telling you, they leave out a lot, right, whether it's for time or, continuity.
Right.
This is not a deep dive, Unsolved Mysteries is an entertainment show. Sure. It is not a deep dive into investigations.
Yeah, no.
And they may leave out things that they don't think are interesting.
Well, sure. And I mean, they're trying to tell a clear and concise story in 44 minutes.
Right.
And with commercial breaks. So they can't tell everything.
Exactly. And they don't.
Yeah.
So there's, so much conspiracy theories about the PD and Grosse Pointe Farms just fucking it up. And I think they probably, I feel like on reflection, every police department makes missteps. It's also the best we've got right now.
Right.
It's like, oh, they didn't investigate this. I mean, and they, there was a civil lawsuit brought by the family later on, and there are tape depositions. You can find all of this on YouTube. And they explain why they did or didn't do what they did.
The officers explain.
Yes, the police chief. And, I believe his last name is Hanger. And I mean, it's like, why did you do this? Why didn't you do this? And they explain, well, there was no reason to investigate this. And so what happens on, January 12th of 2010 is that JoAnn fills her Lexus SUV with gas, tells her son, Michael, I'm going to put gas in the car for tomorrow, which is a common thing people do.
Yeah.
Gassed up her SUV, went to church, 10-minute prayer service, wearing all black, black high-heeled boots, brand new black ruffled designer purse. Her daughter, Michelle, makes sure she mentions it's a designer purse. And her SUV is found parked in the lot. A police officer sees it after the church is closed, a couple hours after the church is closed, 9 something, runs what they call, I guess, a lien check to see if it's, who it's owned by.
Oh, just because, hey, this is a weird car.
Yeah, sitting
Okay.
by itself in the parking lot after hours. Finds it's registered actually to JoAnn's daughters, which is weird, but and has their address, which is close by. Shines his flashlight into the car, sees that there's, her purse.
What's in the car still?
Mhm.
Okay.
And goes to the home. Michelle, her daughter was about to go to sleep. They knock on the door and say, do you know where your mom is? And she was like, yeah, she was at church. And they're like, well, her car is there, but she's not.
Mm.
She's, they call her missing. Now the family is like, oh my God, why would they say she's missing? Because her purse and car are there and she's not.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're so...
What else would you call it?
They have such conspiracy. They're like, it was botched. It was covered up. It was, I mean, they have such theories.
Okay.
That everyone's involved. And I'm like, your mom is not that important. Why would there be a big group of people that want to kill her?
Okay.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm not doing a good job of this, am I?
No,
I'm trying.
You're doing fine. I'm just
failing miserably.
I don't know how. I'm trying hard to perceive the other angle, but it sounds like they opened a missing persons case hours after she went missing. That's like
a good thing.
Really good.
And then they brought a
usually
like a basket to lift a body. They went immediately to the water because they found one set of footprints. Yeah. Went to it's across the street from Lake Clare.
Okay.
And they, put up crime scene tape. They try and, and they're like, her family is furious.
At what though?
It's so much. I can't even I would have to have an entire podcast. And I think there probably are entire podcasts about this case. I just, no. No, sorry. I hate this case with a white hot passion, and I'm not going to do a long form episode about JoAnn Matouk's case. So,
yeah.
All right. So her brother John had a company called Remtech where he bought contaminated land and resold it. He had, financial success, and then, he'd gone down and gone up, and it's like, here's this guy who's trying to make all this money, and his sister's bankrolling him, and blah, blah, whatever.
Well, okay. So it sounds like maybe his business is a little speculative.
Yes.
So there's going to be ups
dicey,
and downs.
right? Yeah.
You buy a piece that you think is going to
pay off, and maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
All right.
Right.
So
right.
It's an up and down business. Mm-hmm. You got to be prepared for that.
Right.
All right.
So the night before she goes missing, the day before she goes missing, her daughters hear her on the phone. They classify it as yelling at her cousin, Tim. You're the reason John is having all of this trouble. It's your fault. And what had happened is Tim had called JoAnn and said, I'm hearing from other family members, you think I'm responsible for Johnny's financial trouble because I work in law enforcement and I'm like turning him in or something. Okay. So she's yelling, you're a troublemaker. I don't want to talk to you, and hangs up. Now her daughters confirm their mom hung up on him.
Yeah.
Tim, the cousin, confirms she hung up on me. We talked for about 1 minute and she hung up.
Yeah.
Now, the daughters say as soon as JoAnn hung up on her cousin, Tim, she said, if anything ever happens to me, look at Tim.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
JoAnn asks Michelle to drive her to the family liquor store because she wants to talk to Billy, the cousin that told
the other cousin,
Tim, hey, JoAnn is saying you're the reason Johnny's having financial trouble. And she goes in, and even according to her daughter, comes back 1 minute later and says, I'm more upset now than I was before.
Okay, so the daughter waited in the car.
Mm-hmm.
She walks in.
Like to make amends with the family.
And then it doesn't go the amends way.
Yeah.
She walks back out a minute later and is pissed.
Right.
All right, fair.
Yeah. Michelle says, my mother came out more freaked out than when she went in. I don't know what she saw. I don't know what she heard, but she just wanted to go to church and pray.
Oh, boy.
Right.
Oh, God. All right.
JoAnn was so worried about being followed or being harmed, she called a security company and, was like, I need someone to help me figure out who's following me. And a week later, then she disappears.
Okay. All right.
Right.
So I'm trying to get into the idea that, okay, there's real threats here, not just somebody who's having mental breakdowns.
Right. Or some paranoia.
And shit going on in her life and some sort of something, which is what it really appears to me to be on the surface. But, okay, take her word on it. What does anybody have something to gain by her death?
Her daughters,
who obviously, I mean, her share in this family wealth go to her kids, right?
Right.
Not her cousins.
No,
they don't get any benefit of that. Or someone else,
right?
Like,
yeah, she didn't leave it to like PETA.
Or the ex-husband's new girlfriend or anything like, right? Like, like, yes, it sounds like she has some enemies or some
family drama.
Yeah, family drama.
Right.
But it does sound maybe possible that there's some more details that would turn this kind of family drama or something, but I don't see a motivation to end her life for it, like, well, if there's
more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's all stupid and bad. Okay. So anyway, sorry, did I just give my opinion? You're exactly right, Joshua. I was yelling on Tuesday night in class, like, these girls' mother is not important enough for someone to murder.
Right.
There is no reason. The only people who would want her murdered would be you two or you three, the kids, and you didn't do it.
If they're in there
there's nothing to do
for an investigation.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Like, leave it. If the kids did it or had it done.
Right. No.
Then they wouldn't be pumping for an investigation. They would let it be at a.
Yeah. It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And no one wants to admit that their family member could do this ever. Sure. And we've seen so many times where, people are like, why would she fill her car with gas and then kill herself? Well, we covered a LA County Sheriff's deputy who filled his truck with gas, parked it up in the Antelope Valley and dove into the Devil's Punch Bowl,
Sure, and it also doesn't mean she intended to kill herself
She could have been sitting there and slipped.
Right, or even standing there and then, got overwhelmed,
fell in,
and said, the forget this, I'm out. Right, could have been
a permanent solution to a temporary problem, and she just did it in like a snap.
Yeah,
we've heard of that too. They won't acknowledge that could ever be an answer.
Sure.
So, yeah, that was a really fun class Tuesday. So anyway, here we go. There was a quote unquote witness named Paul Hawk who said he was driving in the dark on the street between the church and the lake and saw JoAnn's Lexus. Now, there are two different statements, and I don't understand. The first one is that there was JoAnn's vehicle and another vehicle parked next to hers in the parking lot, going in the opposite direction. Their windows were open and they were talking. The second one is there was a man running along Lake Clare with a black scarf, running, looking suspicious and running along Lake Clare. The other one is his other statement, which I don't know what is going on, but there were two cars parked next to each other illegally in the middle of the road, and one of them is like, motioning him around.
Go around. Okay.
And it's, January, it's dark, it's, cold, It's snowy, it's Michigan. And he said 4 years later, oh, I recognize that person. It was Tim Matouk.
Oh, boy.
4 years later, he recognizes Tim in the dark in a car. Tim Matouk, as a police officer, had been on a drug task force in a different county and was, may have been surveilling in a car, and they're like, oh, well, you wouldn't know where he was. Well, as it turns out, there are phone records that prove minute by minute almost where he is, communicating with the lieutenant. Sure. And he couldn't fake that. Maybe he could have paid someone else to sit in his car in his civil service salary and, pretend to be him. Right. And then he goes to kill his cousin for zero reason. Right. And then, it's so much. It's so very much. Okay. Tim Matouk is now retired from that police department, and he is an investigator for a local Wayne County District Attorney's Office. Okay. Do you think they would hire him if they had an inkling that he's involved in his cousin's murder?
Yeah, right. No.
That would look real bad on a DA's office, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That'd look real bad.
Yeah.
I don't, and he's like, I just want my name cleared.
Yeah, right.
This poor man is like, I just, So, a plane flew a message in 2020 on a banner over the city that says, Tim and Bill Matouk, wait until the public finds out who you really are.
Oh, Jesus.
This family is the most fractured thing I've ever seen, and it's terrible. All of it's just terrible. The police, in the meantime, have said, we feel this is a suicide. 70 days after JoAnn goes missing, she's found 30 to 40 miles away in a river that leads from Lake Clare. It's closer to Canada.
Okay.
And, she's fully dressed with her 4-inch boots.
But, in the direction that the tide would have taken the body, like it lines up that...
Well... It's like, oh, no, the waves would never have been that strong to move her that far. Somebody killed her there and put her in the water there.
Oh, boy. All right.
Right?
Okay.
Right?
All right.
If you see the lakes of that area, the waves are like ocean waves.
Okay.
They're big. It's not like a pond.
Sure.
It's a lot. So how she got there, I don't know, because I'm not, good at this, but there are people that are, and some people are like, well, yeah, we don't know where she would go. We can try and figure out, but also, oh no, she could never go that far. So there is no water in her lungs.
No water in her lungs.
Yeah.
Meaning she died before, she didn't drown.
She did not drown.
Okay.
There is something called dry drowning, and that is the official cause of death. Dry drowning is typical mostly for kids. But what happens is something spasms your esophagus before water can get in.
Okay, like an impact of falling?
That's a very good theory. Could have been the cold of the water.
Oh, it was so cold. Okay.
Could have been. They're looking for her under big plates of ice.
Okay. But tell me.
And rocks.
Okay. It was 70 days later, you said. Mm-hmm. Is there anything from the body that you...
Nope.
No.
Couple of bruises, you're banging around on rocks, probably, because it's really a rocky shore.
Sure.
They looked for her immediately. To me, it's like it was a losing proposition, even though it's shallow at the right after the rocks. Right. So there's so church, 2-lane, 4-lane street, a little bit of a bank, some trees, a level of rocks like a break, and then another level, and then the ocean. And then lake.
A cliff, and then
It's not a cliff. It's a couple of feet.
Oh, okay.
It's like a small break.
Okay.
But rocky.
Got it.
Okay. So people sit on the wall or the break. People stand on the wall or the break. I'm sure it makes for beautiful pictures, or you just want to sit there and look at contemplate the lake.
To think, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You got shit going on.
Right.
That 10-minute prayer service didn't cover all your thoughts.
Right.
Let's go sit on the rocks over here.
So the witness, Paul Hawk, says, I saw a large female character presence dressed all in black, sitting on the brake with their head down slumped.
Okay.
Now, I will also tell you, I hated to give you this information because a judge has declared Paul Hawk's testimony issues with it being ever able to be used. It's like we have credibility issues here. They've never released the credibility issues.
Oh, okay. There's credibility issues, but we don't know what they are.
With him and what it is. And his family is like, oh, no, he's the most credible person ever. And I do believe he wanted to help. I don't know if he saw what he saw. I don't know if it had anything to do with JoAnn.
Okay.
Because at first it's like, oh, her SUV and another SUV in the parking lot of the church. And then it's two SUVs that are not, one is not hers, parked in the middle of the street. No one can pass. And then it's, right.
Okay.
So when they open up the Lexus, they find that her purse has a tear in it. And as her daughter Michelle says, her brand new designer purse has a tear. It's not on the strap. So this purse, I've actually seen this purse. I think there's probably knockoffs now. I don't know what designer. I'm going to say like probably Fendi or Gucci, but it's like ruffles.
Okay.
It's like a round kind of a bag with ruffles, black leather ruffles.
Leather ruffle.
Yeah, okay. It's, and it wasn't the strap. I know there was a ruffle.
Because you know how much of a purse guy I am.
I know how you're I can see you picturing it in your head right now.
I know exactly
what shoes would that go with that I have? My black Vans or my rainbow Vans? Or my black and white
black
checked,
leather.
My 4-inch heeled Vans, my Jeff Spicoli black and white checked Vans, or my Keds. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So there's a part of one of the ruffles.
Okay.
Torn off. Look, your friend Melissa's a klutz and a half. Sure. I get my purse straps caught on door handles and car handles and invisible things, and it like pulls me back, and I'm like, oh, I'm just a klutzy person. I'm not saying JoAnn was, but so they find her purse at this point, and they're like, okay, well, and her daughter's like, it's a brand new purse. Okay, all right, it's a brand new purse. I've ripped brand new purses. Sometime during the investigation, Lieutenant Rogers of the Grosse Pointe Farms Police Department finds a black scarf in the median on Lakeshore Drive.
Oh.
And they show it to JoAnn's family, and they're like, no, that's not my mom's purse. I mean, my mom's scarf. She didn't have that black scarf. The black scarf was put into evidence, and Paul Hawk, the witness, said he saw a man running.
Was that cued?
I don't know what that means.
Did Paul Hawk see that man with the scarf on because somehow somebody told him about finding the scarf?
No, I'll tell you what I think happened. I think he saw a man running wearing a scarf, running along Lakeshore Drive wearing a scarf. And that guy was running or jogging or in a hurry or whatever and dropped his scarf. I don't think that man had I think he may have seen that.
Sure.
I also, and it's like, he was acting suspiciously. What's suspicious? Because he was running? Maybe it's because it's cold. It's cold. Or maybe he's a dumbass jogger. I don't know.
Sure.
But I don't think Paul had that information. I think he gave, I don't know. I'll be honest. His testimony didn't come up till later, and his report to the police didn't come up till later. I don't know that he would have read that in the paper. Yeah. I don't know that they would have released that.
Got it.
But I'll tell you the weird thing about the fucking scarf. They take it into custody, and then they release it out of custody and donate it to Goodwill.
Because it's a scarf.
Right.
Yeah.
Found in the median between the road and the lake, and they don't know if it even has anything to do with.
Oh, my God.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Right. So they find her body. It's not in, bad shape. Her clothes, not in bad shape.
Okay.
I think they look like crap, but her family's like, they're unscathed. I'm like, no, her boots look like shit. They've been in the water. I don't care what kind of high quality leather. Been in the water for 70 days. And they're like, oh, no. She was, not in the water for 70 days. She was kidnapped, taken somewhere, killed, and then put in the water 70 miles away or whatever, 30, 40 miles away.
Okay. All right.
I think that they have ability to look at a person's body, even in the water a long time, and say, oh, they've been in the water a long time, or, oh, they've been in the water 5 days.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like,
right.
I mean, no, you can't.
This is 2010. It's not, 1847.
Right.
There are resources. There are places to go, things to, investigate.
And water messes stuff up.
Big time.
You can't be super exact anymore.
Right.
As if, you find a body buried under a pile of leaves. You can be exact. But
or in a freezer.
You can still, but you can still
figure some things out.
Give 2 months difference.
Right.
I mean,
I'll tell you that, I think official cause of death is considered to be dry drowning. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's lots of people who believe it's undetermined, but there was no damage to the body. There was no gunshot, no stab wounds, no strangling, no, I don't know how, I'm not a professional medical examiner or a professional cop. I'm not a professional anything.
I'm an amateur body examiner.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard that about you. Yeah, you are kind of handsy. Yeah. But I get how difficult this would be for the family to have not a lot of answers. I also wish they would consider other possibilities. That she made a momentary decision, that she was upset and sat down and maybe slipped and fell.
Right.
I mean, this case just is, I hate this case.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even, now that after you gave the layout of the shore there, it doesn't even sound like a good way to commit suicide. It sounds like maybe...
Yeah, you know what? You're right.
Like you're sitting there, pondering over everything that's going on, and then you're ready, turn around to go back to your car, and you slip off the rock and fall in the freezing cold water.
That, I think, is as possible as anything. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, we know men typically want to end it quickly and use a gun. Right. Women very rarely use a gun. They'll take pills or, put their head in a oven or, hang themselves. They don't usually make a mess.
Right.
But, she's not Sylvia Plath and she didn't fill her pockets with rocks and walk into the lake.
Right.
But, again, could have made a very quick decision, could have slipped and fallen. She's a older, overweight woman balancing on 4-inch leather heel boots.
Right.
I don't, Yeah.
Yeah. On a rocky terrain.
Right. In the snow and the ice.
Icy, slippery.
Right.
Yeah. I mean.
Your husband leaves you for your best friend. You're fighting with family members. You think you're being followed, whether you are or not.
She's got shit going on to go think about. I get why she would walk out to the rocks just to meditate.
Yeah, to sit and look at the Lake Clare. That looks like an ocean. I always think looking at the water makes me feel like that is so vast. My problems aren't that big anymore.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things I love about the ocean. So I think it's important to know that her family sued the city of Grosse Pointe Farms and the PD in a civil suit for a botched investigation, and it was denied. And then in appeal, it was also denied in the civil suit. The judge, I will tell you, said the facts of this case are disturbing, and I believe that this lawsuit is meritorious, but there is not enough evidence to rule against the city and the PD. Yeah. I get that. I think that is a very fair judgment.
That sounds exactly fair. Yeah.
Yeah. But you can't, I feel like you can't rule against somebody for a case that is way more questions than answers. It's not I started to say it's not their fault. And I know you guys are all going to come at me. I'm now afraid to say anything because I was attacked by a bunch of young fuckers in class.
Oh, no.
But
you're gun shy of...
Yes, I'm saying my opinion now.
Oh, no.
You can say things were botched. I myself don't think they were botched, but what I believe is that they kind of wrote it off as a suicide quickly.
Okay.
And maybe didn't, go as deeply into victimology. They did get information about her family, what's going on, but I don't know if they got enough.
Okay.
To me, it's not, maybe they dug surfacely and thought there's really nothing here and then moved on, and then looked at a different part of her life and said there's really nothing here and then moved on.
Right.
Maybe they just didn't dig deep enough. I do think that there were missteps as far as the investigation. I do think that they could have done more.
Sure. I mean, always, but...
Yeah, that's the truth, Joshua. Always.
Yeah. You have
talking
you
about
have a
human
limited
beings.
amount of resources.
Right.
And what can you do? And are you going to drag the whole Lake Clare? That's
right.
Filled with how many bodies, I'm sure. And, I don't know. If you found the body 2.5 months later,
yeah,
do the autopsy on the body,
right,
and determine, all right, well,
it didn't give you enough. It didn't give you enough.
Else.
Right.
All right. I don't know. I feel for a family that's in the middle of their grief.
Of course.
And they're already in the middle of other stuff. I mean,
yes.
Even you got all kinds of family stuff going on, and you're, as an adult child of parents who are now divorcing, and all of these. I mean, they're not kids; they're adults.
Or adults, right?
I feel for her children who are going through an immense amount of grief and an immense amount of all the emotions. Their parents splitting, their family members arguing,
amongst themselves, right?
It's a really crappy place to be, and then you're trying to point a finger. I don't know that PD is where the finger should land.
I agree with you. And I will tell you, this case is so big in Michigan that there are, and I hesitate to call them investigative reporters because I just feel like they're giant shit stirrers who've come forward and said, I have sources who've told me that a week before JoAnn went missing, she had secret meetings with the FBI.
Oh boy.
And I really despise this man. He is, I look at his face and I want to punch him in the throat really hard. I don't care who you are. It's so illegitimate of you to, who are your sources then, sir?
Yeah.
Come forward to the police and say, she had a secret meeting with you. This is a little middle-aged woman whose life was being turned upside down. Sure. She was not an FBI informant. This is such incredible bullshit here.
Yeah.
I think it's always just going to come back to, people worrying about money, and it's all about money. And it could have just been all about emotion and depression. And
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of emotions happening
all over the place,
even without the money, because exactly. The money and the stuff. I mean, I'm sure divorce was contentious. There's all kinds of whatever was happening. But if there isn't any evidence of something, especially they find the body and there's no nothing, I don't know.
Well,
I don't even, I mean, you hinted at, I don't know if you full on said, but you hinted that your opinion was suicide.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you're wrong, but I kind of think my opinion is like, oops, it was an accident.
I agree with you completely. I said suicide because whether it's accidental or purposeful, that's sort of what I meant.
Like
I think she could absolutely have slipped and fallen, but also maybe was like, I'm just ready to go.
Yeah.
I don't, you're exactly right. And I thank you for correcting me, because I am of the same mindset as you.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the other of those things. I don't think this woman was a national threat. I don't think anyone cared enough to have her murdered. There was nothing going on in her life that was that big and bad. It just is sad that family, and her family is not alone. So many families cannot accept, that people sometimes make a decision that isn't about you.
Right.
It's a selfish decision to end your life. Or maybe it wasn't a selfish decision like Joshua said. Maybe she slipped and fucking fell.
Right.
All I'm telling you is there's no one, her family didn't hate her enough to kill her. There was no reason to kill her to keep her quiet. For what?
I don't know.
Right.
I'm not saying it's not possible, but I just don't see I don't see enough evidence. I don't see much of any evidence that.
Yes. And I will tell you, the first person her daughters pointed their finger to was their own father.
Sure. And then, but why?
I guess because he had the gall to leave her for her best friend. So why would he kill her? Don't know. I mean, you could say like divorce or something, but it was her family that had money. I think he made his own money. So yeah, her daughters are like, well, it's my dad. And then, oh no, it's my cousins. And they even pointed the finger at her brother, John. They just could never allow the finger to be pointed toward JoAnn for a accident or for purposeful.
Right.
They couldn't. It's never going to be JoAnn's fault.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Tipsters? Was it her cousins who got together and killed her because they were upset she was giving her brother John money? As if they care. Right. Was it her brother John who killed her because he needed more money? Was it her daughters? No. Was it her daughters? Question mark. Was it her ex-husband? Question mark. Was it the FBI who needed to keep this high-level informant quiet?
Right.
Question mark. Was it a priest who wandered out after the service and kicked a poor woman into the water because he was just fucking tired of looking at her face every day?
Sure.
That's my theory.
But he didn't make footprints.
Nope.
So
you know why? He was flying.
Floating priest.
Yeah, he was. What if he was an angelic priest? I'm not saying a good angel.
Right.
He could have been a bad angel.
Oh, no.
I'm going straight to fucking hell, aren't I?
Yeah,
I'm going to get so many emails and people are going to be like, you're a heretic, you fucking awful human being. All right. If you have any information on this case, I swear to God, if you have a theory, please consider contacting the Grosse Pointe Farms Police Department at 313-885-2100. We will have that number on the show notes when we post this episode. And if you have a tip on a missing person or an unsolved homicide, keep it to your fucking self because I'm sick of it. No, I'm kidding. I couldn't get by without you. I love you all. Or if you just want to suggest a case, please give us a call at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837. You can email us at jttipsters@gmail.com. You can find us on any of the social media platforms. That's just the Tipsters Facebook page. That's at JT Tipsters on Instagram, at JT Tipsters Pod on Twitter, and more cowbell.
If you would like to support this podcast and get early access and other cool murderous swag, go to patreon.com/justthetipsters.